Hello everyone, this is Maurice from the M&M Model Railroad, and here in front of me is an MTH Big Boy number 4005, and I've actually been tooling around with this engine all day long, trying to tweak it, and actually I wasn't very successful. I mean, at some point I thought I was, and it was working not the way it should, but it was working better. But now it's to the point that for some dumb reason there's no sound. And I tried every which way to try to get it to work again, and it doesn't work. And I believe the reason for this issue is that the MTH decoder does not like being programmed by different command stations or any type of programming media. Saying that, I don't think it's fair to actually come out with a product that you can't program with another or a different brand of programming hardware, and basically solely relying on MTH's programming hardware. And it causes a lot of problems, and this is one of the problems. I believe it has something to do with the firmware, or how the whatever command medium that you're using, it seems like the MTH decoder sees it as a different language. It's not, basically understanding what the commands are. And I try to reset this thing numerous times with CV8, CV55, hitting the F28 key on the Digitrack ZipR, which is this. It's a nice little unit. It works pretty well, but for some stupid reason, the engine just fails to program correctly. I tried taking the engine and just having the tender on the track, tried to do it that way. Still no go. The light comes on when it's not supposed to, and a couple other quirky things. If I run the engine, and I hit the brakes, it will stop on a dime, like I hit a switch or something. So, very frustrating afternoon, very frustrating evening, trying to deal with this. And there needs to be a better standard when it comes to DCC controls, and it needs to be strictly enforced, because this basically costs a lot of money. Now, I am getting the TIU module for programming MTHs. I always wanted one, but I feel like I'm being forced to get it due to something like this. And I'm sure there's other people out there that's having probably similar issues. And you buy these engines, you expect it to be compatible with a lot of the hardware that's out there, and come to find out it's not. And then you're sitting there scratching your heads, what's wrong and all this kind of stuff. So, in a nutshell, it's a good idea, if you're going to invest in MTH engines, is to get what's called a TIU module, which is basically an interface that connects to your computer, to your layout, or to your programming track. And what this does is that it will send it. Basically, you can run accessories, you can do a whole bunch of things with it pertaining to MTH stuff. But more importantly, it helps you program the engines better or more efficiently, or supposing it's supposed to work better. I'm hoping that that's the situation. And I don't have to send this one to the shop if the decoder is um, if the firmware on the decoder is not badly damaged. It may just have to be rewritten. When it gets to this point, most likely the firmware on the decoder has to be rewritten, totally rewritten from scratch. And I think it's corrupted to the point where you can't even reset it. Supposedly there's another, I'm into computers, so I kind of understand how this works. For a reset to work, there's supposed to be another piece of firmware that's on the chip itself, or on the decoder itself. Basically, when you hit the command to actually reset what the programming is, it will actually activate that particular chip, and it actually rewrites what you have done to another firmware chip. I don't know if it will work, if it works the same way as with computers. Because computers, you have what's called a BIOS, and if you corrupt your BIOS, some motherboards will have another BIOS, basically a default BIOS, where it will actually overwrite what you have written. So again, this is my little rant about MTH. But it's not only MTH that has this issue. There's other couple of vendors that do the same thing. QSI was one of them at one time, and they still are. Very difficult to program without the programmer. The QSI programmer. Sorry, I got marbles in my mouth. I'm tired. QSI programmer works beautifully with QSI decoders. And I assume Digitrax is the same way. If you have a Digitrax decoder and you have this thing, it works like gangbusters. ESU, same thing. You have an ESU decoder, you can do whatever you want with it. By the way, ESU and MTH really do not work together, or a matter of fact, it doesn't work at all. I mean, the system just doesn't see the engine, and it doesn't run properly at all with the lock sound, or actually the lock programmer that I have. I mean, I tested this out, and the programmer was like, no mas, no mas. So I just left that alone. It does program with the QSI, but then again, it's a different algorithm. It may be the same CVs. You'd be thinking, giving it the same commands, which are supposed to be the standard CVs, but it's not really the case. So if you're going to tweak around with these things, it's best to get the decoders the hardware that will work with the decoders. For MTH, you got to get the TIU with the handheld remote. It goes around for almost $300. After tax, it's still not a lot. It's a lot of money to shell out. Or you could find someone at a hobby shop, some kind of dealer, who actually has the TIU unit that actually can reprogram your engines, your MTH engines. So, I mean, it does work. It still runs. It just don't have no sound. Let's see. And that's forward and back. Yep, no sound. So, and mind you, it is on, by the way. So, saying that, I mean, there's been a lot of issues with MTH lately, and I had the Challenger about a few weeks ago, and I had to get exchanged because that wasn't working right at all. It was issues with the smoke. Matter of fact, it didn't work at all, and the front headlight didn't work at all. But everything else worked fine, which was odd. Well, I won't say odd, but I mean, the situation was just odd. But these things are very technical, there's a lot of moving pieces. I assume the actual decoder hardware is pretty complex, and a whole bunch of things. And there's another gentleman online on YouTube. He has a page. His name is Railroad Kid 1937, and he also had issues. He had two big boys, by the way, that he had purchased. Well, actually, one big boy he purchased. He sent that back, got another one because the first one wasn't working, but the second one wasn't working also. He also sent that back, but MTH decided that they want to try to fix it as opposed to give him another one. And from what he was telling me, that one also had some serious issues, and MTH technicians could not figure out why the engine was giving the problem that it was giving. And I think it had something to do with shuttering. And that's one of the main reasons why I was tweaking with this today, is because of the shuttering. And I got to the point where I actually eliminated the shuttering, but then I created another problem. The engine stops on a dime. You take off the throttle, it's like, I mean, the engine just stops. It doesn't roll to a stop, it just stops. And I did a third video, and I didn't like the way it came out, so I said, let me do a fourth one, and put it on the track and turn on the power, hit F3, and I got no sound. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell now? So, and mind you, it was working when I took it off the track. So I don't know what happened by the time that I have taken it off the track, to putting it back on the track. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. But, I mean, you deal with these things. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pack this thing up and put it away and wait till I get the TIU module, and then hopefully that will fix it. And if it doesn't, and I basically have a $600 paperweight, more or less. But I'm assuming that it does have firmware, so I can actually rewrite it. As a matter of fact, I'll talk to one of the guys at Willis Hobbies. He also has a TIU module, and he does programming, so I'm going to ask him a couple of questions about that. But again, if you're going to have an MTH or quite a few of them, and you need to program them, invest in a TIU module with a remote handheld. And again, that actually connects to your computer, and you download the software for it from the MTH site, and you interface with it, and you connect it to your programming track, and then away you go. Well, enough of my ranting. I don't know if there's anything else I want to really say. But that's it. I guess that's it. I had nothing else to say, anything really good. So, everyone, rock out and have a good night.